Hello there, it's Simon from Financial Fluentia. This is my very first video on YouTube, and I want to give an insightful walkthrough to the ICAN May 2023 case study pre-scene, as you can see on the screen. Over time, it has been observed that this course has been a headache for so many students because they tend to fail it, maybe because of they lack a good grasp on the concept, or maybe they spend too much time calculating ratios. But we are here today to make this process seamless and to make students ace their case study in one go. From the pre-scene, which I know all of you must have been familiar with by now, you would observe that the company in context is Dudley, a cement company, who is one of the leading cement company in Nigeria, alongside with Dangote and the Nigerian, I think one other company like that, other Nigerian cement company or stuff like that, because they contribute about 19% of revenue of this cement industry in Nigeria. So without taking much of our time, I would like to delve into the financials, because I observed that financial has been like for so many persons. So many persons are finding it difficult to give insights to their calculation. The calculations are easy, yeah, but you have to drive insight. You have to connect each and every of these financials, of these numbers. You have to connect it with the scenario rather that has been produced or provided for you by ICAN. So I did a little analysis, which some other persons might have a different perspective. You know, analysis is not a one size fits all kind of thing. You could have one number, but people having different insights. That's why it's known as analysis. After going through the case study, I identified. Okay, before we go further, I would like to give a disclaimer that these questions that I have suggested here are only meant for guidance, and students should not solely focus on them. Students should just use this as a guide while studying and preparing for the exams. As we all know, financial ratios or ratio analysis is a very common topic that reoccurs in case study. It comes out every year, every diet. So it is pertinent that we not only know how to calculate these ratios, but to also drive insights by connecting these values, these numbers that you get through um, or from the ratios, and then giving it more insight from the information by linking it to the information that is provided in the pre-scene. The second topic that I suggest that you should look at is corporate governance, despite the fact that the board was given and then following other things that need to be considered, balanced board, diverse board, just overview, just read about corporate governance. And also, the last part of it is growth strategies. I also read the company proposing some strategies. So through that aspect, I just brought out this topic that you should read about market penetration, those growth strategies, penetration, market development, product development, diversification, organic growth, and so on. Just read them. Read about their similarities. Read about their merits and demerits, their pitfalls. Read about their differences. And then internationalization, sorry. So I also observed that one of the proposed strategy is Dudley getting a franchise from an international company. So there are some pitfalls that there are some stuff, there are some factors that may affect Dudley if they go through this route, and there are also some benefits that they are going to get. Also, read about franchising, read about internationalization, And I believe this will help in understanding or in getting insight into what the examiner will bring up in the exam. Okay, these are some of the questions that I suggested. You could also broaden your reading, but these are just the one I confined these tutorials to. Based on the suggested question one, which requires us to perform a financial analysis on that list performance, I came up with some ratios which I feel is relevant to Dudley company, because over time some persons waste a lot of time calculating 15 ratios, 12 ratios. I mean, those are just time killers. You don't have to calculate all the ratios you can observe. That's why we have what is known as the key performance indicators. We just need to calculate those ratios that drive the performance related to the industry of which the company in which the company we're analyzing operating. So we all know that revenue is like a one kind of ratio that fits in every sector, because every sector generates, or every company generates revenue. So this section is just to give you an insight on how to link scenarios from the precinct to the numbers you have calculated, which can be seen from the revenue growth. So we observe generally that Dudley, they are doing well in terms of revenue. Their revenue grew from 2018 to 2019 and from 2019 to 2020. So giving them the percentage increase is not enough. What can drive this increase in revenue? So as you can see, you will observe that Dudley has a very strong reputation. It does, is being sustainable. It does corporate social responsibilities. He has received award in many aspects, telling you that wow, indeed, Dudley has a very strong brand. So this could be reasons, or this could be things or factors that drove the increase of this revenue. No, there's some investors or some buyers that will be like, wow, I love what this company is doing. Let me patronize them. Because some businesses or investors or buyers, some buyers are becoming sustainable in the sense that they want to deal with companies that, you know, that are or that perform sustainable actions. So that could be one of the reasons that drove the sales. Despite the fact that we were not given any information about price increase in um, cement, that's per bag, or even the quantity that was sold in each of these years, we could also assume inflation could occur. Consumer could change preference. Those are things that could have led to the increase in the revenue, as you can see here. Secondly, I looked at the PPE growth. Now, this is to tell you that PPE growth is not a standard metric, but it can help you to know the increase or the decrease rather in PPE or assets that is owned by Dudley. However, there are other ratios that you can calculate. You could calculate return on capital employed. You could calculate PPE turnover ratios. Those are standard ratios. And now the reason why I chose this ratio is because it was said in the precinct that Dudley is the leading capital investment company. I mean, if a company is the leading capital investment company, it's telling you that it invests a lot in PPE. So we need to calculate a ratio that is relevant to PPE, that is relevant to the industry, that is relevant to the information that is being provided to us about Dudley. So that's the reason. And now, if Dudley is the leading industry in terms of capital investment, it means that if there is a drop in their PPE turnover, or if there's a drop in the PPE growth or in PPE in terms of absolute value now, it means that the company is losing competitive advantage, because another company could overtake it as it is declining in PPE. It is also observed that Dudley became listed on the floor of stock exchange in 1983, meaning that this company is now at the mercy of investors. So since investors are now interested in this business, we need to calculate those shares that will make them to see how effective the business will generate returns for them. That's why I also calculated the earnings per share and then the price to earnings ratio. As you can see, the earnings per share, it did not require any calculation because it was already provided. It was already provided, sorry, in the financial statement. But what we are now looking at is that there is a change between the earnings per share in 2018 and that of 2020. Now, that change is what we want to give insights to. There are two basic factors that could lead or that could drive that change. It's either there's a change in the number of outstanding shares or there is a change in profitability. Now, it is obvious that the margin, the profit margin for the company increased. And based on the calculation I did here, the share price, these outstanding shares decreased. And now the outstanding shares decreased, it could be as a result of directors buyback also. And now that is just what I did here, explaining that okay, there are possibilities of investors getting more returns or more earnings for every share that they buy. So if they see that there's an increase, investors will want to buy more shares so that they will what? They will earn more. Also, coming to the price to earning ratio, it just shows how attractive a company is and how committed its investors is in financing this business. So after calculation, which is the total market capitalization divided by earnings, which is the profit for the year, we observe that the PE ratio is about 20.7, which shows that the investors are ready and committed to pay 20.79 times of the company's earnings. Wow, that's a great one because it takes confidence, it takes an investor's confidence to be able to put 20 times a particular earning in the business just because of how the business is performing. They are seeing great prospects in the business, and so on. You just calculate relevant ratios that or ratios rather that are relevant to this company that we are studying. Then finally, I looked at debt to equity ratio. And you already, by now, I guess you should know what debt to equity ratio is. Just talking about the financial risk of the business. And you know that the higher the debt, the more interest that the company is going to pay to those debt holders, and then the more the company will experience a decline in profit. Okay, I gave a little note here. I said you could also calculate interest cover, gross profit, or any other relevant ratios. Do not calculate too many ratios. Only calculate the ones that are relevant to the case study. I would recommend calculate 5 ratios or 6 at most. Just pick the ones that are relevant to the case study and drive good insight so that the examiners will be like, wow, this person really knows what he or she is doing. Okay, this is the solution to the suggested question 2, which talks about the merits and drawbacks of Dudley going into franchising, as you can see. You can always pause the video, rewind, or fast forward if I'm too fast or if I'm too slow. You can always go back to read through what I have here. Okay, as mentioned earlier, you could also look at the similarities, the differences, and the like, so that you'll be able to know when being asked that what's the benefit of this over this, what's the benefit of this strategy over this strategy, and also look at organic strategy. That's Dadley building its own brand, building its own factory, building its own depot in another location. Look at the factors that may consider, look at the benefits, look at the drawbacks, and then try to look at the similarities and differences with other growth strategies. Like I said earlier, do not calculate too many ratios, as this is a time killer. I implore you to calculate 5 or at most 6 ratios. Just drive good insights into them and you will ace this course in one go. So the end of this insightful session, and this is me telling you a very good luck, and I wish you all the best. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if possible share, as this will be like a source of motivation to produce more of this kind of videos. Thank you. Goodbye.